then there we go. It's a recording.
Terrific. So welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us today. This is a new venue for us, doing a virtual workshop, so we're glad you all could show up. So we're going to introduce ourselves. So I'm Bob Dolan. I'm the Assistant Director of Career Services for the MIT Postdoctoral Scholars. And with me today is Eric.
Hi there, everybody. I am Eric Pavicic. I am the Assistant Director of First Year Engagement. And then I work predominantly with first year undergrads, but I'm also a liaison for the School of Humanities, Arts, and Social Sciences, as well as Sloan undergraduate business majors and Aero-Astro engineers.
And Francis.
Hi, everybody. I'm Francis Borrego. I'm the Assistant Director for Employer Relations, and I work on the side where we transitioned all the employers from the spring career fair that was supposed to take place yesterday. That's now going to take place virtually on Wednesday. So thank you all for joining us.
So as we go through the slides, I'll share my content. Eric will jump in on more the technical aspect of it. And Francis is available if you have any questions regarding the employers. So without further ado, let's begin. It's not allowing me to move forward. There we go. So as Francis mentioned, this is organized by our team, Career Advising and Professional Development. So we encourage you to register. The next slide, Eric's going to walk us through how to register and how to do some of the technical aspects so you can be there ready to go next Wednesday. Eric, please.
Yes. So one of the easiest ways to do this is actually if you go through Handshake. One of the career fairs that is listed, of course, is the virtual career fair for next week. When you click into it, you'll notice that you have the ability to join the event. So go ahead and click that button, give it a few seconds, and it should redirect you to the Career Echo site. And from there, you can go ahead and Bob, do you want to advance it to the next slide?
Sure.
Great. And then from here, you'll get to the landing page for Career Echo. The registration button is down towards the bottom of the banner. So you'll just go ahead and you'll click on the registration. It will ask you for some information in terms of, are you a student? Are you an employer? By all means, click on the student profile. So that way, you can go ahead and get all of your information entered for the fair. And then, so that's where you're going to go ahead. You're going to enter as a student. Please use your MIT email during registration. But at that point, you can always add in some additional information during the registration process. It will ask you a few questions, so keep that in mind to fill out your profile. And we do recommend that you upload your resume for this event.
Great. Thank you, Eric. So as we start to move forward, we're going to talk about really how to approach the career fair. We're going to talk about preparation, things to think about. We're going to talk about your communication to employers, both written and verbal. So we'll go through all that detail to make you as effective as possible during this venue. But you also want to understand why you're going to this career fair. Are you looking for a job or internship? Are you looking for a little professional clarity? What's out there? What aligns with my interests, my skills as a professional? It's also a great opportunity to practice your communication. You'll be verbally speaking with employers. They'll be asking you questions. You'll get feedback from them. You'll also provide your written documents. So both written and verbal will be included in this career fair. Some people go for networking, develop contacts, learn about different fields and industry. And if you're a part of the career fair organizing team, you actually get to develop some leadership skills. So understand why you're going next Wednesday and try to be as effective as you can for you based on your current needs or your interest. So as you start to explore career paths, the very top of this pyramid is really the external portion of your job search. Before you can actually create a resume or a CV or interview or go to career fairs and really be on the outside of your search, you really have to do a little self-reflection, some self-assessment. what are my skills? What are my interests? What type of work environment do I enjoy being? What kind of problems do I enjoy solving? Are there certain computational tools and methods that you enjoy using? So understand yourself. So as you start to create a document, a resume, a CV, or you start speaking to employers, you want to make sure that you are delivering the best of you and as it aligns with you as a professional. So you need to be prepared. So what does it mean to be prepared? So not only do you understand yourself, what's important to you and where you think you want to go, but also the employers want to know a little bit about you as too. So as I mentioned before, really understand yourself, invest some time, figure out what's important to you, and practice your communication, deliver the best of you that you can. But also think about, what type of job are you looking for now? And keep in mind that the next job you're going to get could be step one of multiple steps throughout your career. So you don't have to worry about where you're going to be 20, 30 years from now. You really want to make sure that the next step in your career is good for you to help you continue to grow as a professional and put you in a place that is important to you. So what are you looking for now? And where do you see yourself, or what do you see yourself doing in 3 to 5 years? And also, what kind of skills and abilities can you offer an employer? So based on who you're targeting, they're going to be looking for certain skills and attributes. Make sure that you align with some of their needs and you can deliver what they're looking for. And they'll ask you questions about that. So you need to really provide evidence of the quality of your work and what you're doing. Employers, they hire people who know what they want. So if you're unclear, you're not going to deliver a very good message. But sometimes if you're not all that clear and not confident about where you're going, sometimes you deliver a message and it may align with them and they may end up wanting you, and maybe this isn't a place for you. So really understand, like I said, what's important to you. So think about what kind of research have you carried out? What kind of experimental techniques have you mastered? What kind of computational tools are you competent with? Are you willing to relocate? When can you start? They're going to ask you why you're interested in their company. And then they're all going to ask you, so tell me about yourself. So we'll get into some of the language you can use when they do that, because it's important for you to really deliver the right message to them when they ask those questions. Because a lot of your verbal communication, you are speaking for the benefit of the listeners. And your written communication, your resumes, are really, you're writing for the benefit of the readers. So, it's very externally focused. It's about you driving value in the areas in which you're targeting. So, Eric, you want to jump in on this one?
Yes. So once you have entered into the fair, you can adjust a lot of information related to your profile. So up in the kind of upper right-hand side of the window, you'll notice that it'll have your name, your school affiliation, as well as just a quick button where you can edit profile. You can adjust this at any point. Just keep in mind that employers might be pulling some of this information at various points between now and the career fair. So it's best to kind of make sure that when you enter in information that you just kind of get as much in as you would like at that point. We do recommend that you upload your resume. You do have the option to upload additional documents such as cover letters, transcripts, portfolios. These are all really good pieces of information to just have available. Just note that any documents you upload will be something that are accessible by employers. So just make sure that you put your best foot forward in that regard. You do have the ability to put in additional information. So if you are a master's, PhD, or postdoc, you do have the ability to add in additional levels of education as well. For a lot of you, you might be entering in a specific major. One of the things that I do recommend when entering your major, there's a full list that's a drop-down, but then there's also sort of a free-form text box. Just note that an employer will really only be able to look at information that's from the drop-down menu. So make sure you try and find something that closely aligns, but feel free to utilize the fill in box just in case you would like to, but keep in mind that any information that is on your resume will also help the employers find you in terms of just keyword search. So just make sure that you use appropriate information on your education for your degree programs in your resume, and that's another way that employers can find you. It's also important for you to review company schedules. Even though the career fair goes from 9 to 5 Eastern Daylight Time, not all employers might be available for the full duration of the day. So over the course of the next week, employers are being asked to solidify their schedules. Keep that in mind as you are planning your day, who might be available when, and just have a draft schedule available just in case, because that would be a great way for you to just know who you need to focus on at specific times during the day.
Terrific, thank you. So as Eric mentioned, you really want to upload things, you want to be ready to go. When people see you for the very first time, they make judgments. There were some neuroscientists at New York University and Harvard did some studies examining different aspects of the brain, and they determined that people make 11 judgments in 7 seconds. So when you first come on the screen and an employer sees you, they're going to make judgments based on how you're dressed. And we'll talk a little bit later about how to be professional at our career fairs. So it's amazing what they look for. And this is what they've come up with: education level, economic level, perceived credibility, believability, trustworthiness. So people are making judgments immediately. So you always want to make sure that you are presenting yourself as professional as possible, both with your uploaded documents as well as your physical presence when you come on the screen and you're speaking with the employer. It's amazing how quickly people make judgments. So give them the best of you. So as you prepare for the career fair, you want to think about, what type of employment are you targeting? Are you just exploring things? Are you trying to figure out where you might fit? So understand your goal. What is the goal that you want to accomplish next Wednesday as you start to talk to different employers? As Eric mentioned earlier, you want to make sure you upload your resume so they see it. It sometimes can be difficult uploading a very targeted resume in a career fair if you're going to be talking to 6, 7, 8 different employers with different similar disciplines, but maybe different jobs. So it may be hard to do a targeted one. But you want to make sure that you produce a document that highlights most of your both technical and your behavioral skills to make sure that they understand what you can bring to the table. You also need to develop your verbal communication. You're going to develop a little script. When an employee comes on the screen and they say, "Tell me about yourself," or "Why are you interested in our company?" And a lot of them will ask that question. This is a good structure you should use when responding to why are you interested in our company or our department or our lab. So give me your name, your program at MIT, your potential completion date, your areas of interest, and how it relates to their needs. You need to align with their needs to catch their attention. So here's an actual one I worked with a postdoc last year. You can take a moment, you can read that. So not only did this individual highlight some of their background and the work that they're doing, but they aligned it to the department or the company that they were targeting. So there was some synergy there. So here's another one. So I recommend that you actually, based on the companies that you may be interested in speaking with, go into their website, see what they do, look at their careers page, look at some of the jobs that they have and see where it might align with you. And then do a little self-reflection and understand what you've done and how it might align with them. And I would write down this verbal script because you're going to use it. And if you write it down and practice it out loud for the career fair, you'll be much more confident in delivering that message when it comes. So this would be more, tell me why you're interested in our company or our lab. Sometimes you just get, so tell me about yourself. The traditional elevator pitch, as they call it. So this is the response structure that we recommend that you use. I would also write one of those out as well, because there's a 90% chance you're going to be asked that question as well. And again, you're speaking for the benefit of the listener. So here's an actual one. You can take a moment and take a look at it from a postdoc last year. So what's also interesting about this one, in the line that says, I have worked in several labs and have led teams. Led teams, leadership and team, 2 words, very powerful. You know, as a PhD and postdoc, you may be at a level where you're going to be managing projects, so you need to show that leadership. As an undergrad, you need to show that you can be a part of a team and maybe collaborate, things of that nature. So it's really important to show some of these behavioral attributes. So here's an actual one from an MEng I worked with a few years ago. She had an interview with Google. We did a mock interview before her interview, and I helped her draft this. What's interesting about this particular page is what's underlined was actually in the Google job description. So take a moment, you can take a look at it. What's interesting, she came back to me after the interview with Google, and she said that the recruiter said that was the best answer he ever heard. So I asked her, can I share your stories? I've been sharing her story for several years now. And here's one more, a master's student, take another peek. So I highly recommend that if you do find a job of interest, print out that job description and then go through and highlight some of the technical attributes and some of the behavioral attributes, and make sure that you are delivering most of what they're looking for. You'll really stand out if you do that. And they'll be more than happy to talk with you later if you can deliver a lot of the content that they're looking for, both technical and behavioral. So now from a company's perspective, they want to know what you're interested in. They want you to understand what the company does. They want you to understand what kind of positions that they offer. So you really do need to do your research. They want you to show interest. If you meet with an employer and just say, so what do you guys do? That's not a good response. You really want to make sure that you understand what they do and where there may be some fit between your skills, your interest, and the things that they need. So the National Association of Colleges and Employers surveyed over 200, I should say, 200 employers a couple of years ago, and asked them, when you're hiring people, what are you looking for? So the top 4 out of 5 attributes are behavioral. You know, when they see your resumes, your CVs, your cover letters, the accomplishments that you've had, the fact that you're coming with the MIT brand, there's a high likelihood there's a little critical thinking and problem solving. You wouldn't be here. Now they want to know, can I work with this person? Can they be part of a team? So you want to make sure that you always deliver, as I mentioned before, some of the behavioral attributes. And it may only be 1 to 2% of your content, but if you don't have it in it, that could be not a good thing for you. And based on my time at MIT, almost 15 years, I believe you have every single one of these attributes. But we don't always have a tendency to show them. We have a tendency to really just talk about the technical or the skill side. We also want to deliver some of the other skills. Many of you have been published. Many of you have done presentations. You've worked in teams. You've collaborated. You're committed to your work. Many have led a project. Those are let people know you can do that. That's really important. And when you get asked, tell me about a project or tell me something about yourself, as you start to describe what that project was, I thought I would throw in some content on how you might be able to tee it up a little bit. You want to give it a little context so the employee understands the complexity of the project or what the environment was like. So these are sample phrases that you could use before you then dive into the actual actions that you took, and hopefully it was a positive one, ending with a good result. So these are good phrases to use to begin responding to questions. And as we do in our profession for resumes and CVs, we want people to use past statements. You know, what was the project you worked on? What actions did you take? And what were the positive results? You don't want to just tell them what you were supposed to do. You really want to tell them what you did and the impact of that work. So this is an example of how you might phrase out one of your accomplishment statements. I'll ask you all to go back and take a look at your resumes and look at the different bullets and how you're describing your work. Are you delivering everything that you think is important? Or are you just listing, this was a project I worked on? I worked in Dr. Smith's lab or something. You know, you really want to explain what you did and the impact of that. So this accomplishment statement, manage project team, manage leadership team, 2 words out of 20, very powerful. So things to think about. So these are resumes I worked on with MIT students over the years. So I'm giving you a little bit of what was before, and then we talked about it, and then we changed it. So the first one, work included research on interface sensitive behavior of materials. I asked them, did you work with others? Were you alone? Well, tell me a little bit about the problem. And then they almost said exactly what the after was. Oh, yeah, we collaborated in a team. We did this. I'm like, that's great. Let them know that. So make sure you're delivering a good message, not just something short and sweet that isn't really highlighting your abilities and accomplishments. So you can use these as an example, and these are a couple more. These are actual ones. Don't tell them what you were responsible for. Tell them what you did. It's critical that you do that both in written and in verbal form. So I recommend you go back and kind of revisit your resumes and CVs and make sure that you're delivering value and showing the overall delivery of the project. If it's just brief and they don't understand everything that you did, you're not delivering an effective message. But if you deliver the method that you did it, the impact, that's a really good thing. That's a positive thing. So as you start to focus on your accomplishments, you know, look at all the different things that you've done. You know, what did you do that might have improved the work process, or worked in a collaborative environment? You solved a complex problem, or you led a team, etc. So take a look at some of these items and evaluate the work that you're doing, and identify some of the things that you have done and make sure that those are included in your resumes and CVs. But they can also help you delivering a very strong cover letter by sharing a story that highlights both your technical and behavioral skills that solve a complex problem that aligns with the needs that that company might be looking for. So these can be important things to help you with. So as you start to prepare, we're going to go through a little bit of a 12-step process fairly quickly, but you want to prepare for the fair. There's a strategy. What do you do at the fair? And then what do you do after the fair? So it's not just you're going to go to the fair, but there's going to be prep. You're going to have the activity of the fair, and then there'll be follow-up with employees afterwards. So you want to make sure that you register ahead of time. So follow Eric's guidance on how to make sure that you're registered. Make sure that you do it in advance, not moments before the career starts, just in case there's some technical problems. So make sure that you can do it in advance and you're ready to go. Definitely research the institutions of the companies that you're targeting. The more you know about them, the better you can answer their questions, and the more you align with them. So you're going to also go in a virtual setting. They're going to be looking for candidates who are curious and ask good questions. So make sure that you can ask good questions. Oftentimes they'll say, do you have any questions for us? So make sure you have something that aligns with both of you. So there's a good professional conversation. Eric, you want to jump in on this one?
Yes. So one of the things to keep in mind is all of these interactions are going to be facilitated or at least initiated through the chat feature. What you can do on Career Echo is you can actually look to see who are the employers. You can also find information about their chat schedule. And then on the actual day, you can actually start to plan out when you're going to go in and access those chat rooms. One of the things to keep in mind as you are kind of navigating this chat schedule is all of the employers will have or should have some idea of like the types of roles they're looking for indicated. They might also indicate position descriptions. These are all great pieces of information to review in advance, but don't let this limit you in terms of who you might want to engage with at the fair. They might be interacting or seeking out specific candidates, but it never hurts to connect with them, especially during maybe a slower part of their day, to really make sure that you really kind of budget your time appropriately. Once you can either click on the name of the company in order to do that, and you'll get a whole list of some of the roles they're looking for and all of that additional pieces of information. How this might be a little bit different in the process is you will probably want to start to think about how you're going to enter the chat room. Sometimes it's recommended to have maybe some talking points kind of drafted in like a Word document or some other text document. So that way, if you need to quickly copy and paste like a brief introduction or something about yourself, you're not scrambling to type that information out very quickly. You can also think about how you're going to, like what sort of questions you might have for them. So after you've reviewed their company profile, the types of positions they're looking for and related information, you might have some specific questions you would like to ask them. But at any point during the chat, you do have the ability to either conduct a private chat with a recruiter. The recruiter does also have the ability to initiate a private chat with you, as well as they do have the ability to initiate a video chat with you as well.
Also, so as we mentioned before, you really want to make sure that your resume is ready to go. Don't wait until, Tuesday night to do this for the Wednesday event. Take some time over the weekend, go through, update it. Also go back out and visit your LinkedIn profile. Research shows that 96% of recruiters source candidates via LinkedIn. So you want to make sure that you have a strong LinkedIn profile. What oftentimes happens is they'll look at your resume. If it piques their interest, they'll keep reading. Then they'll look at your cover letter. 83% of recruiters do not look at the cover letter the first time. So the resume really tends to be that lead document. If you catch their attention, they'll read the cover letter, then they're going to go to your LinkedIn profile. And they're looking for clarity of purpose, common themes, impact. So make sure that you have a good, rich LinkedIn profile. Don't just list this, that you're at MIT, but tell us what you're doing. And if you're a PhD or postdoc and you've been in other institutions, explain what you've done in different labs in the past. What's nice about LinkedIn is you can have hot links to your pubs. You can follow industries. As an example, if you're following the biopharma sector, you can have different companies there. So they'll see that you are following their industry. Maybe you're following their company. That also shows credibility and interest in them. So your LinkedIn profile can be really very strong. What's nice about LinkedIn is it could really be the equivalent of your CV. So those of you who have a resume, you have a resume, but oftentimes PhDs and postdocs will have a 4, 5, 6 page CV. That can be all the content in your LinkedIn profile. So those are good things. So
hey, Bob, we have a question that came in that's actually very appropriate for this. So what if a candidate has multiple resumes? They might be considering both positions in consulting versus engineering. What sort of tips do you have for what sort of documents should they upload specifically for this event if they're considering multiple?
Yeah, so that can be challenging, and I get that question every year. So that's why I think having a specific targeted resume sometimes is difficult to do for career fairs. But using the example of consulting and engineering, you know, they're going to look for the technical skills. They're also going to look for the leadership skills, the teaming skills. So a lot of your attributes do apply across multiple spectrums. If it's very technical, maybe you use on your resume, you may have some of the tools or methods that you've used. Maybe you have a skills section that highlights all your abilities with different computational tools. But if you're targeting consulting, if it's more general consulting like BCG and McKinsey, they're looking for people who can be part of a team, solve complex problems, build relationships, communicate effectively. So a lot of companies do look for very similar things. So I know it's difficult. I wish I could give you the exact answer for career fairs, but you just want to make sure that overall you're delivering most of the attributes that these companies look for. You know, later on, if you end up connecting with that employer at a later date, you can maybe tailor your resume, send an updated one, or write a cover letter specifically that aligns with them. But I just think it can be a little challenging for career fairs. But I think by understanding most of the attributes that companies are looking for, both technical and behavioral, you'll be able to make an impression. And if you understand what they do and you have a good conversation with them and you show interest in them, that's also a positive thing as well. So hopefully I was able to answer your question, but that's a tough one. Career fair written resumes can be kind of challenging sometimes. And as you produce the document, to kind of reiterate a little bit, so is it action oriented? Do you have quantifiable measurements? And does it highlight, you know, some of your behavioral attributes? Those are critical. Companies are looking for all these attributes. Also, you want to practice your introduction or your pitch to them when they say, so tell me why you're interested in that company, or tell me why you're interested in this job, or tell me about yourself. I think it's really important to really practice that. And speaking with our neuroscientists on campus, they tell me that if you actually write down what you want to say and then you practice it and say it out loud and hear yourself, the brain will retain it longer, because we sometimes get nervous in an interview setting of employees are asking you questions and it's sometimes hard to come up with all the right words. So if you practice, say it out loud, maybe the first time you say it, it doesn't sound as good as you would like, so you keep practicing it until it gets to where, okay, that sounds good, I'm comfortable with that. So practice it, because you're going to be asked, you know, you're going to be asked these questions. So I think preparation really is the key to anything that we do successfully. Probably 90% of our successful ventures have been in the preparation, not the final execution. So you want to take some time and prepare and be ready to go. Eric?
Yes. So yeah, definitely prepare those scripts for your pitch, any questions you might have, and any other talking points that you might have. So this is kind of a display of what it will look like. You'll have the ability, once you enter the chat room, to see other attendees who are there, as well as any representatives from the organization. Keep in mind though that although your full name will appear on your view, the other candidates in the room will only appear as their first name plus their last initial. If those candidates, of course, want to identify themselves, that is up to them. But keep in mind that any information that is in the chat rooms will actually be something that the employers can save and refer to later. So it's really important to be very mindful of kind of the language you're using in the chat rooms. It's also very important for you to be very supportive of the other individuals in the chat room as well. Once you are there, of course, just as a reminder, you can initiate a chat with one of the recruiters who are in the room. You are also able, and then they are also able to initiate a video chat. You are not able to initiate a video chat with them, but they might, of course, reach out to you and say, hey, I'd love to chat more. Can we initiate a video chat? So just be prepared for that possibility in any of the chat rooms. You do have the ability to have multiple chats open. My word of advice, or actually caution related to that, is keep in mind that it might not reflect positively on you if you take a while to respond to a direct message from a recruiter. So while you're in the chat room, certainly engage with them. And then feel free, you can always leave a chat room, you can always come back to a chat room. One thing to also keep in mind is that all the information that is in the main chat room will actually be displayed at any point throughout the day. So you do have the ability to go and see maybe questions other people have asked. You do have the ability to see any sort of introduction that the employer has provided. So maybe take a few moments once you enter a chat room just to get a sense of the history of the conversations that have happened so far. That's very different from an in-person career fair where you might be able only in some instances to overhear questions from other people. So keep that in mind. You're gonna really want to maybe leverage the questions from your peers to kind of help you focus what sort of things you might wanna talk about with the employers at that particular time.
Okay, you want to do this one too, Eric?
Yes, so definitely make sure your technology is ready to go. A couple of things for you to just keep in mind. Doing this platform on a mobile device is actually not recommended. So if you happen to have access to a desktop or a laptop computer for this event, make sure that it's properly charged. And they do recommend that you either use Chrome or Firefox as the desktop version for any of these engagements. It also allows you a little bit easier access to switch between chat rooms. Of course, having the full keyboard is certainly preferable. Really take some time to kind of get a sense of where everything is in the platform. Understand what the buttons look like, get a good sense of the just the user interface across the board. And yeah, definitely make sure that you have a quiet spot where you can focus. I do recommend, if they do video chat with you, if you happen to have earbuds or headphones that you can use, just to kind of minimize any sort of background noise, that is certainly preferable. And yeah.
Okay, thanks. So now we want to talk a little bit about dressing professionally. We want to make sure that you really, at least from the waist up, deliver a very positive message. As we mentioned earlier, people make judgments immediately. So when you first come on the screen, you want to make sure that you're delivering just a neutral to positive image. You can just wear a shirt and a sweater. Based on who you're talking to, maybe you might want to wear a tie. Ladies, a nice blouse, perfectly fine. Make sure your hair is back so they can see your face. Look into the camera, smile, really important. So you really want to make sure that you're delivering that overall positive image. So no t-shirts, no sweatshirts, make sure that you're dressing in a professional manner. So, and you want to do the echo one again, Eric, or is this somewhat redundant from the previous?
Not necessarily. I mean, it is really important to really make sure that you are providing focus for this. I know sometimes in a chat room, it's easy for you to focus on different windows. A lot of us like to multitask, so it's really important for you when you are actively in a room to just pay attention to what is happening. If at any point, let's say your phone rings or you're getting text messages from a friend or you get an email message from your professor, what I do recommend is that you exit the chat room so that way you are not distracted when you're engaging with the employers, and really just make sure that you focus on just putting out your best effort. It is important with the chat feature, or sorry, with the video chat feature to realize the fact that they do see your background. So just be sensitive of things like your lighting. Make sure that you, if you happen to have a video chat camera, sometimes it's helpful to put like a post-it note or something, some marker up by your video chat or video camera to just help you remember to look at it. That will help simulate eye contact, especially if you are in a video chat with a recruiter directly.
Thanks. So now you need to be ready to put yourself out there. So once an employee engages with you in a chat, really the ball's in your court. So they're waiting to hear what you have to say. So you want to make sure that you present yourself to employees and that you're confident in doing that. And that's where the prep and the practice in advance can help. Also, you want to make sure that you use business communication, professional language that aligns with your industry and your profession. Don't use slang. If you're talking, if you're more in the biopharma sector and you'll be talking about, some science, technology, make sure you're using the proper terms, both in your written and your verbal communication, because the employees are coming from that environment, and that also highlights your ability or your knowledge using the proper language and delivering yourself professionally. So you also want to use good body language. Just like a traditional career fair, when you're presenting yourself, you want to be confident, but you also want to be aware of your body language. You don't want to be rocking back and forth when you're talking, or you don't want to use your hands blocking your face. It's distracting. So make sure that you sit up, look at the camera, as Eric said, because now you'll be looking into their eyes, you'll be looking at their face, and speak clearly, avoid, slouching over, try to be professional as possible. That sends a really positive message to the receivers, to the companies that you're talking to.
One thing that I will just add that really kind of helps with posture. I know sometimes it's very tricky, especially with a laptop, to demonstrate good posture on a video camera. One thing that I do recommend, it might be a little bit awkward for typing, but at least for the video chat portion, have either a stack of books or a box that you can set your laptop up on. So that way you don't present that sort of like looking down moment that is very customary if the laptop is below your eye level. So if you actually elevate your laptop, it actually does help you display better posture. I know I can't really show it right now, but my laptop is actually about a foot up. I'm a tall individual, so my typical desktop height doesn't really accommodate me to keep it down low, but certainly keep that in mind. That's a great sort of strategy to utilize. So just use some textbooks, use a box, just to kind of elevate it, even if it's just for a few moments to hold the video chat. And then of course, once that concludes, certainly bring it down to a level so that way you can utilize the keyboard a little bit better.
Yeah, thanks. And I have a very firm pillow behind me, so I sit up straight. So to Eric's point, make sure that you're visible, you're sitting up straight, you're presenting yourself as professional as possible. So, so the next step, so as you kind of conclude your conversation with the different recruiters of different companies, you always want to ask about what are the next steps, whether you need to get in touch with them, maybe send them an updated resume, maybe you fill out an application, but always find out what's next in the process. These employers are coming to MIT because they are looking for people to join their company. They have open positions, not just now, but even for the future. So they're not just looking for what's happening in the next few months, but they're also looking long term. So they're looking for people who can fit their environment. So find out what's next, and make sure that you come away with an action plan following your conversation with them. So, reach out to them the next day. If you can get their name and their email address, it's always great to reach out and just send a little thank you note afterwards. Hello, Dr. So-and-so, it was a pleasure meeting you yesterday at the MIT Career Fair. I really enjoyed our conversation on X, Y, and Z. Now, if explain what you talked about, they may even remember you, and that would be a positive thing. And then ask, you know, if there's an opportunity to further meet, you'd love to do that. So companies are interested in people who are interested in them. So don't be afraid to share your interest and thank them. Thank you notes really can be very positive. And you also, as I mentioned just prior to this, you can send them an updated resume based on the previous question, which was really good. Now you can do the targeted one. Now that you know the company that you're going to be sending this to, you can even tailor that to align with their interest and their needs. So that's a positive thing. So that's why following up afterwards is also a very positive thing. So overall, there's preparation, there's strategy at the fair, and there's follow-up. So hopefully some of the content that we shared with you today can help you better prepare. Start this weekend, take a look at your documents, look at, you know, register, find out who's going to be there, know where there's a linkage between you and them, you know, pick the ones that you're interested in and deliver them the best of you. And, you know, so we wish you the best of luck in doing this. Any final thoughts, Eric, Francis? Any questions coming in?
Some questions are coming in, but Bob, actually, can you go to, I think it's the next slide. Yep,
yeah,
no worries, no worries.
Yeah.
So one thing I know that is, this is a very different platform from what a lot of us have encountered before. Career Echo does provide some additional instructions on how to utilize the platform. So what I do recommend is after you log in, you do have access to these PDFs and videos to kind of help give you a better overview. So what I would recommend, you spend some time in preparation, just take a moment, look over it. It does, the tutorial for the chat rooms is actually really helpful. So it actually gives you a sense of what it's like to be in a chat room with an employer, but certainly pay attention to the PDFs as well, because that'll give you some additional insight. So we do have a couple of questions, Bob and Francis, because I think we might need collective brain power on some of these. So one of the questions came in that's basically, would you have any suggestions for how to ask employers about what their openness is to internships given the current situation with COVID-19? As a lot of us are aware that there is quite a bit of a disruption for this. So is there any suggestions from either of you as far as what might be a good way to broach this topic with employers?
I think you should ask, you know, based on what's happening, you know, what are your internship opportunities in the future? What are your hiring practices going to be over the next few months, considering what's happening? So I think it's perfectly fine to ask those questions, honestly. What do you think, Francis?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think even when you go through the list and you see some companies are just looking for full-time, I would still engage with them and express your interest in those particular opportunities and just inquiring in terms of, are there opportunities for this particular summer, or do you hire interns throughout the year that maybe I might be able to submit my application for and things like that. So, I mean, I think you just got to get out there. You need to express yourself and just go after it.
And also by asking that, it shows that you are interested in their company. So I think that's a positive thing.
We have another question. So, so they noticed that you can upload a cover letter and a reference letter in the platform. Is there any advice we have? Should those be generic? If it's a cover letter, is there anyone they should specifically address it to? Any sort of thoughts about what sort of things might be suitable to upload in that regard?
Yeah, so the cover letter tends to dive a little bit deeper than the resume. You know, the resume qualifies you for the position, that job, that aligns you with the company, but the cover letter, as I said, dives a little bit deeper because you then describe a project that you worked on that by coincidence aligns with some of the needs that they have. So, but you can describe a project in your cover letter that really can satisfy many different needs of companies, from not only the technical expertise, but ability to work in a team and things of that nature. So You can, I think you can upload it, and if you're only seeing one company, then you can even be even more targeted. So, any other thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think that once you have these conversations with these employers, you get a lot of good information that you then could include in the cover letter. So it makes the cover letter a little bit more meaningful, you know, once you have that information and you can kind of refer back to a specific conversation you had. That then reiterates your particular interest and you're following through on that particular interest. So I'm always mixed. You know, I think if the resume speaks to the particular project that you worked on, then maybe this time I would skip to the cover letter and just maybe send that in once you are going to prepare the materials that are a little bit more targeted for that opportunity.
And one thing that I would just add is this is not the only time you might be engaging with these employers. So keep in mind that anything you upload is sort of fair game for the recruiting organizations to sift through. But it doesn't mean this is the only time you can submit documents to them. So if you've connected with them and you've kind of engaged them and you kind of have a better sense of what they're interested in and they encourage you to apply, at that point, then you could, of course, type up a new cover letter or think about what needs to be included on a specific reference letter to really appeal to them, given your new knowledge about that targeted position.
Yep, great, I agree.
We have another question. I think this one is for Francis. Is the list of participating employers already finalized?
So I think it is finalized. I think there are going to be more than 50 employers that are going to be participating. I think what's not finalized right now is that there's a number of employers who still need to complete their job positions that they're going to be recruiting for. So I think you'll see an influx of those coming in over the weekend as well as Monday, as they're going to get reminders that they need to go back in and complete the details in their particular profile. So the particular set of employers, I think it's going to remain pretty steady. There might be another one or two that trickle in, but it looks like we're going to have over 50 companies participating.
Right. One other question that just recently came in, the question is, will this recording be available anywhere after? The answer is yes. We're most likely going to put it on our YouTube channel, and then we'll provide a link in the resources part of Handshake, as well as pretty much any registered attendees for this event. I'll make sure that I share the link out directly with all of you, so that way you have access to it. Certainly feel free to keep submitting questions, either via the chat or the Q&A. And yeah.
So I do have a comment. It goes back to when you go into the platform as an applicant, you can see the list of organizations that are coming or are going to be attending for the chats. There's a column that's for interests, and you're able to select the companies that you're interested in. Once you do that, on the employer side, the employers will see multiple tabs, and one of the tabs they will see is they will see those students that expressed interest in their particular organization. So the employers have access to view everybody that's registered for the fair, but then they also have a separate tab that they can then go through and download resumes from those particular students who have expressed interest in speaking with that particular company. So my recommendation is that once you do go through the list of companies and the opportunities, that you do select the particular companies that you're interested in, because then it's going to be a flag and a signal to them that you have expressed interest in their particular opportunities. So I wouldn't be surprised if even there were some people that expressed interest in a particular organization, they might not have had a chat with them, but afterwards they might receive an email in terms of, you know, this is how you can apply for certain opportunities at our organization.
Any more questions, Eric? Or?
No, so far we've managed to handle all the questions.
Okay, so first of all, I want everyone to know that you can always make an appointment with us. We have career fairs that cover every discipline on campus. I'm sorry, we have career service personnel that work, again, across every discipline on campus. So feel free to make an appointment with us. Also, we have some, in the events page in Handshake, we have upcoming workshops that we'll be attending, that you'll be able to attend virtually. One is negotiating job offers. Another one's going to be effective presentation skills. All PhDs and postdocs will have a presentation component to their interview. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But also going to be one towards the end of April on behavioral interviewing, how to handle some of those difficult questions. There's a high likelihood you can answer the technical questions. You do that stuff every day, but sometimes it's the behavioral questions that are a little bit of a curveball. So we're going to be offering different workshops to help you over the next month as you start to migrate to the next place in your career. And there's many other programs that are going to be happening as well. So take advantage, go into Handshake, check on the events calendar, and feel free to take advantage of what we're trying to offer. Okay, all right.
Right.
Well,
All right. Well, I think this then concludes the presentation. Again, we will go ahead and upload this recording. You will all receive a link once that recording has been uploaded. And but anyways, we do thank you all for participating in today's event. The career fair is next week, so please spend the next few days getting prepared. Feel free to schedule appointments or email us if you need any additional assistance. That is why we're here. So anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and close out the recording.